Welcome the anointed ones. Some people get noticed for what they do, but a chosen few get noticed for what they can't hide. That's where your story begins, quietly, unexpectedly, and without your permission. Because lately, someone with real influence, someone who doesn't waste their attention on ordinary people, has locked their eyes on you. And not in a casual, "oh, you seem interesting" kind of way. No, this is the type of attention that feels intentional, calculated, and strangely personal. The kind of attention you earn by simply existing in a world that expected you to blend in. Here's the funny part. You weren't even trying. You weren't campaigning, performing, or angling for recognition. Meanwhile, this person, who can spot talent, truth, and threat from a mile away, caught something in you that made them pause. And people at that level do not pause unless something unusual interrupts their inner radar. Studies have shown that humans make judgments about someone's power, influence, and competence within 0.1 seconds, a blink shorter than a blink. But you didn't just register. You lingered in their mind. You pressed a button they didn't even know existed. You made them recheck their instincts. And trust me, powerful people hate when their instincts get shaken. They're used to being the detectors, not the detected. Now they're obsessing, not in a creepy, "I'm watching you through binoculars" way, but in that undeniable, "why does this one person have a presence that refuses to leave my thoughts" way. The kind that makes them replay your words, your movements, your attitude, like a scene they're trying to decode. You accidentally did what thousands of people try to do on purpose every single day. You attracted the attention of someone who rarely gets impressed. And the reason they're so fixated isn't random. It's because they noticed two very specific things about you. Two things that shifted everything in their mind. Once you triggered those two switches, the obsession began. And trust me, once someone with real power becomes fascinated, the story is never simple after that. Number one, they noticed you move like someone who answers to a higher authority, not human approval. People with serious power are constantly watching, not because they're nosy, but because their survival depends on understanding who can influence outcomes and who will crumble under pressure. They can tell within seconds if someone operates from ego, insecurity, or the desperate need to be liked. And then there's you. You move differently. You don't bend to social expectations or perform for applause. You don't adjust your energy to please anyone. The way you carry yourself signals something far deeper. You answer to a higher authority. Your actions are aligned with principles, intuition, or a sense of destiny that doesn't require human validation. That is both unsettling and fascinating to someone whose entire life revolves around control. This kind of presence is magnetic because it cannot be faked. People who rely on influence are used to reading patterns, predicting behavior, and spotting weakness. They are trained to dissect how people think, why they move, and where their loyalties lie. But when they observe you, all their usual systems fail. You operate on a level that feels untouchable, not in arrogance, but in clarity. You do what is right or necessary, and it doesn't matter if anyone notices. That independence, that ability to act from your own internal compass, is rare. Most people are guided by fear of judgment, craving recognition, or avoiding confrontation. You are not. To them, it's mesmerizing. They become obsessed not because they want to control you, but because they cannot understand you. They see a person who refuses to shrink, who refuses to seek permission, who refuses to be defined by ordinary measures of worth. Your presence alone challenges the norms of power because it signals confidence rooted in truth, not in manipulation. Every step you take, every decision you make, radiates that unspoken authority. They notice it, and once it registers, they can't ignore it. They are drawn to it, compelled to analyze it, and ultimately obsessed with understanding how someone can move through the world with such power while answering only to what truly matters. Number 2. They noticed your presence rearranges the emotional temperature of a room instantly. People with serious power are experts at reading energy. They don't just notice what you say or do, they notice the subtle shifts you create in the people around you. They can sense when tension is rising, when lies are being told, and when loyalty is being tested. But when they observed you, they realized something extraordinary. Your presence doesn't just exist in a room, it alters it. It changes the flow of energy in a way that cannot be manipulated or controlled. Conversations pause, people adjust without thinking, and emotions settle or flare in response to your mere proximity. That is rare, and they noticed it immediately. It's not about being loud, dramatic, or attention-seeking. In fact, you may barely speak, but your energy communicates more than words ever could. Your aura carries clarity, calm, and authority, and it doesn't ask permission to be felt. People around you subconsciously adjust to your rhythm. Those who are dishonest feel exposed. Those who are genuine feel recognized. Those who are insecure feel the need to step up. This kind of effect is instinctively alarming to someone who thrives on control, because your presence refuses to conform to the invisible rules of manipulation or intimidation. What fascinates them most is that this influence seems effortless. You're not trying to control the room, and yet the room bends slightly to your existence. That subtle but undeniable effect is what makes them obsessed. They can't figure out if it's intuition, skill, or something else entirely. They study you without realizing it, trying to pinpoint how one person can shift emotional currents simply by being present. Power gravitates toward those who disrupt expectations, and your presence does exactly that. It challenges how they perceive authority, control, and influence. They've spent years mastering environments, manipulating outcomes, and reading people, yet you alter the atmosphere without trying. That alone keeps them captivated. They can't ignore the ripple effect you create, and every time they encounter it, the fascination grows. Your presence isn't just noticed, it lingers, unsettles, and commands attention in a way they can't switch off. Number 3, they noticed you've mastered restraint in a world addicted to reaction. The world rewards impulsivity, noise, and drama. Most people respond to every provocation, every insult, and every challenge immediately. They react out of fear, ego, or a desperate need to be heard. But you operate differently. You've mastered restraint. You don't rush to respond. You don't let emotions dictate your actions. You observe, calculate, and then act with precision. That level of control is magnetic to someone who wields power because it signals a mind that is not easily shaken or manipulated. They notice that when chaos erupts around you, you remain steady. While others are losing composure, overreacting, or burning bridges, you hold your ground. You make decisions based on strategy, not impulse. This is not weakness or avoidance. It's deliberate strength. Power instinctively recognizes this. People who have authority, influence, or control spend their lives predicting behaviors and exploiting patterns. When they see someone who refuses to play into predictable reactions, it unsettles them. They become obsessed, trying to understand how you can navigate a world designed to break people without being broken yourself. Restraint also amplifies your influence. Your silence in heated moments, your calm in the storm, your measured words, they speak volumes. They signal that you are aware of everything without needing to prove it. That is rare. Most people display their worth through action or noise. You display it through patience, awareness, and timing. Every move you make carries weight because it is intentional, not automatic. They are fascinated because restraint is not passive, it's active, powerful, and strategic. They notice that you do not bend under pressure, and that rare ability to control yourself in a world addicted to reaction is disarming. It makes them study you, analyze you, and try to anticipate you, but they can't. You are a mind operating on a different frequency, a presence that refuses to be baited, and a force that refuses to be rushed. That is why, once they notice this, obsession is inevitable. Your mastery of restraint becomes not just admirable, but impossible to ignore. Number 4, they noticed your intuition is more accurate than their intelligence systems. People in positions of real power rely on data, surveillance, networks, and endless streams of information to make decisions. They surround themselves with analysts, advisors, and algorithms to anticipate outcomes, predict behavior, and stay 3 steps ahead. But then they encountered you, and they realized something shocking. Your intuition is operating on a level that outpaces their most sophisticated systems. They watch as you sense outcomes before facts even emerge, read intentions before words are spoken, and understand motives before actions are taken. It's a natural radar, almost instinctive, and it terrifies and fascinates them at the same time. This isn't luck. It isn't coincidence. It's the result of a mind that processes signals others don't even notice, and a soul that understands truths hidden beneath surface appearances. You see patterns, contradictions, and intentions that even trained professionals cannot detect. And the strangest part is, you do it effortlessly, without frantic calculations or endless data. You simply know. That kind of clarity makes someone obsessed because it is rare, unpredictable, and entirely uncontainable. They can't help but watch you closely, trying to figure out the source of your insight. Are you studying people more thoroughly? Do you have secret methods? Or is this something innate, something that cannot be taught or replicated? The obsession grows because power is drawn to mastery that it cannot control. They recognize that your intuition makes you untouchable in ways they are not used to. Every decision you make seems pre-informed, every action perfectly timed. You don't stumble into outcomes. You navigate toward them like you've already been there mentally. And in a world where most people flounder, guess, or manipulate to maintain control, your instinctive foresight is a revelation. It commands attention, respect, and a kind of fearful admiration. They become fixated on how someone could consistently operate with such clarity, predictability, and precision without access to the tools they rely on. Once they notice this, they cannot stop analyzing, tracking, and contemplating you, because your intuition is not just insight. It is influence, power, and a quiet, undeniable authority that makes them rethink everything they thought they knew. Number 5, they noticed your moral compass works even when nobody is watching. True power has a way of seeing through pretenses. Those who wield it are constantly evaluating motives, watching for cracks in character, and testing integrity. They've seen people perform kindness for recognition, loyalty for gain, and courage for applause, but then they observed you, and it became immediately clear that your morality isn't conditional. You don't act right when cameras are rolling or when someone is looking over your shoulder. You act right because it is embedded in who you are. That is both rare and alarming to someone used to measuring worth through appearances. Your consistency in character signals a type of strength they cannot manufacture or fake. People with real influence notice when someone behaves ethically under pressure, when decisions favor principle over convenience, when truth is prioritized over advantage. You do this naturally without seeking approval or credit, and it disrupts their usual way of assessing people. They can't manipulate you, bribe you, or charm you into compromise because your values are non-negotiable. That alone makes them obsessively curious. Integrity at this level carries invisible power. It creates trust, commands respect, and builds a reputation that can't be purchased. You don't need to announce your standards. They are visible in your choices, your actions, and the subtle way people gravitate toward your reliability. Power notices patterns, and your pattern is undeniable. You are consistent, principled, and untouchable by schemes designed to sway ordinary minds. What fascinates them is the combination of authenticity and quiet authority. You are morally grounded without being rigid, ethical without being performative, and unwavering without being oppressive. That is intoxicating to someone accustomed to measuring influence through fear, manipulation, or control. They can't stop studying you, trying to figure out why you are not tempted by shortcuts or swayed by advantage. Your moral compass is a beacon, a silent signal of strength, and a revelation in a world where ethics are often negotiable. Once they notice this, they cannot stop observing, analyzing, and becoming quietly obsessed with how someone can carry that level of integrity without flinching. Number 6. They noticed you see through people too quickly for comfort. Power is built on perception. Those who hold it are trained to detect lies, predict moves, and exploit weaknesses. They assume that with experience, resources, and connections, very few can slip past their scrutiny. Then they encounter you, and everything they thought they knew about reading people is challenged. Within moments, you've already decoded intentions, spotted insecurities, and understood hidden motives. You don't just notice what people say, you understand what they don't say. That skill unnerves them because it bypasses the layers of deception they are accustomed to relying on. They become obsessed because your perception is immediate and precise. You don't need time to analyze behavior, cross-reference history, or wait for mistakes to surface. Your awareness is instinctive, yet unrelenting. You see through manipulation before it begins, detect dishonesty before it's spoken, and recognize strategy before it's executed. To them, it feels like you've short-circuited a system they've spent years perfecting. The very people who think they are untouchable notice your ability to expose truths effortlessly, and it both fascinates and unsettles them. This ability doesn't come from aggression or confrontation. It comes from observation, clarity, and an unshakable alignment with your own truth. People around you may mask who they are, but you don't let the masks linger. They notice how you can remain calm while decoding layers of personality, intentions, and hidden agendas. That level of insight makes you unpredictable in the eyes of someone trained to anticipate everyone else. They cannot manipulate you because you see the strings before they're pulled. Your presence becomes a quiet form of power. You are aware of motives and dynamics that even seasoned strategists fail to recognize. They can't stop watching, analyzing, and recalculating because your perception challenges their sense of control. You're not just noticing patterns, they notice you noticing them. That awareness makes you magnetic, enigmatic, and impossible to ignore. Once they realize how deeply you can read people, obsession is inevitable, because the very skill they pride themselves on detecting in others is now mirrored back at them, and they can't understand how you do it so effortlessly. Number 7. They noticed you're unmanipulable. Manipulation is a tool people with influence use constantly. It's subtle, almost invisible to most, and it works because most people have predictable emotional triggers. Power thrives on bending others to its will, on watching reactions, and on exploiting weaknesses. Then they meet you, and suddenly their usual tactics fail. You are unmanipulable. It's not about arrogance or defiance. It's about an internal alignment that cannot be shaken by flattery, threats, or guilt. That rare quality immediately grabs attention, because someone who cannot be moved, influenced, or bought stands apart in a world built on influence and control. They notice that attempts to sway you, small tests, indirect pressure, subtle coercion have no effect. You respond with clarity, with calm, and with actions rooted in principle. Your decisions are yours alone, unaffected by hidden agendas or veiled expectations. That refusal to bend is magnetic because it demonstrates a strength few people possess. Power respects what it cannot control, and suddenly they find themselves facing someone whose boundaries are unbreakable and whose mind cannot be cornered. What fascinates them further is that being unmanipulable doesn't make you distant or cold. You engage, you communicate, you participate, but always on your terms. You choose your reactions with intent, not habit. Every word you speak, every action you take, reflects awareness rather than reaction. That precision unsettles them because they're used to predicting behavior, gauging loyalty, and leveraging influence. You defy all their expectations. The more they try to understand you, the more they realize the truth. No amount of persuasion, subtlety, or strategy can penetrate your internal alignment. That makes you irresistible and, in their eyes, inexplicably powerful. Once someone in a position of real authority notices that you are unmanipulable, they cannot stop observing you. Your autonomy, your unshakable presence, and your refusal to play by manipulative rules command fascination. They become obsessed, not because you are a threat, but because you exist in a space they rarely encounter, a mind entirely your own, untouchable and undeniable. Number 8, they noticed you carry pain like it's a qualification, not a wound. Everyone carries pain, but most people wear it as a badge of suffering, visible, loud, and often used as a justification for bitterness or blame. Power, however, sees through that instantly. Those who observe people closely are trained to identify weakness, to detect how trauma shapes behavior, and to exploit vulnerability. When they look at you, they notice something entirely different. You carry pain not as a wound, but as a qualification. You've been through hardships that would cripple most people, yet you emerge refined, disciplined, and more aware. That alone sparks fascination, because it signals resilience few can achieve and fewer still can recognize in others. You've learned to process what you've endured and use it as a lens to understand life more deeply. You don't act out of fear, resentment, or self-pity. Your past doesn't dictate your present. It strengthens it. That strength is magnetic to someone who studies people in terms of influence, power, and control. They see that your pain has been transformed into wisdom, patience, and insight. Every setback, betrayal, or hardship you've endured becomes a silent testament to your endurance. They notice the quiet confidence that comes from someone who has stared life in the face and refused to be broken. What captivates them most is your balance. You are neither hardened into coldness nor paralyzed by sorrow. You carry experience without arrogance, awareness without judgment, and wisdom without ego. That equilibrium unsettles people who are used to exploiting weaknesses. They can't figure out how someone can endure, learn, and evolve without being tainted by bitterness. Your history becomes a form of unspoken authority. It signals that you can navigate challenges with clarity, handle pressure with precision, and make decisions untethered by the emotional chaos that affects most. Once they notice this, their obsession grows because they realize that your strength isn't superficial, it isn't performative, it is deep, inherent, and forged through survival. You are living proof that true resilience doesn't just endure, it transforms, and in the presence of someone who understands power, that transformation is impossible to ignore. Number 9, they noticed your spirit refuses to shrink around power. It expands. Most people instinctively contract when faced with authority, wealth, or influence. They lower their voice, minimize their presence, and adjust themselves to fit into the expectations of those in power. But you don't. Your spirit doesn't bend, and it certainly doesn't hide. Around someone with serious power, you expand instead. You don't cower, you don't diminish, and you don't try to blend in. You carry yourself with a sense of inherent value that cannot be overshadowed, and that is what makes them stop and pay attention. This expansion is not arrogance or defiance. It's rooted in confidence and clarity. You know who you are, what you stand for, and the boundaries that cannot be crossed. Power notices that immediately, because they are used to people shrinking, flattering, or performing to meet expectations. You do the opposite. You occupy space authentically, move decisively, and act as if your presence belongs there, as if it was meant to be noticed. That kind of energy is magnetic and unsettling at the same time. They are fascinated because your refusal to shrink exposes them to a reality they rarely encounter. Most people around them are malleable, predictable, and easy to manage. You are not. Your energy challenges the hierarchy they are accustomed to, forcing them to recalibrate how they view influence and authority. They can't ignore the way you subtly yet undeniably shift dynamics simply by being unapologetically yourself. The fact that you expand rather than contract around power also signals something deeper: resilience, awareness, and alignment with your own truth. They notice that you are untouchable, not because you seek to dominate, but because you are fully yourself in every interaction. That confidence, that unwavering presence, makes them obsessed. They study you, they analyze your behavior, and they replay your interactions in their mind, trying to understand how someone can maintain such balance and strength in a world designed to make people small. Once they see it, they can't unsee it. Your spirit refuses to shrink, and that truth makes you impossible to overlook. Number 10. They noticed you have the rare ability to stay humble without playing small. Humility and self-respect rarely coexist in the way you carry them. Most people who try to stay humble end up shrinking themselves, dimming their presence, or apologizing for simply existing. On the other hand, arrogance often masks insecurity, loudness, or a desperate need to be recognized. You, however, walk a line that few ever achieve. You remain grounded and approachable, yet you never compromise your value or minimize your capabilities. That balance is magnetic to someone with serious power because it signals a type of confidence that cannot be intimidated, manipulated, or leveraged. They notice how you operate in the room. You contribute without dominating, you shine without overshadowing, and you assert yourself without aggression. Every word you speak, every action you take, is measured but unmistakable. You do not seek applause or validation, yet your presence carries authority. In a world where so many people inflate themselves to be noticed or shrink to avoid attention, this equilibrium is not just rare, it's fascinating. Power sees through pretense, and they can tell that your humility is genuine, not a strategy or performance. This combination unsettles and captivates them at the same time. They are used to people whose confidence is performative, whose humility is conditional, and whose self-worth depends on comparison. You, however, are consistent. You know your value and it's unwavering. You are generous with your energy, patient with your interactions, and strong without needing to prove anything. That creates a quiet gravity around you that draws attention and holds it. They become obsessed because they cannot categorize you. They cannot fit you into the familiar boxes of pride, insecurity, or ambition. Your humility is real, yet your presence is undeniable. You navigate life with integrity and self-assurance that challenges the norms of influence and power. Once they notice that you can be both grounded and formidable at the same time, their fascination grows. You stay humble, but you never play small, and that truth makes you impossible to ignore. Number 11. They noticed your silence isn't emptiness, it's calculation. Silence is often mistaken for passivity, indecision, or weakness, But that assumption falls apart the moment someone with serious power studies you. They notice that when you go quiet, it's not a gap or a void. It's a space where your mind is active, sharp, and deliberate. Every pause, every measured restraint signals awareness and strategy. Unlike most people who speak to fill spaces or react impulsively, your silence carries weight because it is intentional. It communicates more than words ever could, and those trained to read influence can sense it immediately. They become captivated because your quiet reveals a mind working differently. You are observing, assessing, and processing in a way that gives you the upper hand without seeming to try. Decisions are not rushed. Reactions are not reflexive. You move like someone who already understands the landscape and only needs the right moment to act. To them, that is both unsettling and fascinating, because it defies the patterns they rely on. Most people reveal their thoughts, fears, and weaknesses before they even realize it. You reveal nothing, yet your presence conveys power. What holds their attention is that your silence is strategic, not performative. You are not trying to intimidate or manipulate. You are simply operating on a level that demands observation. Those around you, including the powerful, feel the tension and energy shift in your quiet. They instinctively know something is happening under the surface, even if they can't pinpoint it. That unpredictability, combined with the precision of your awareness, makes them obsessed. Your silence is a tool that amplifies your influence without aggression. It signals that you are in control, that you are aware, and that you can operate independently of external validation. Once someone in power notices this, they cannot ignore it. They study your pauses, your restraint, and your careful observation, trying to decode a mind that refuses to be rushed or manipulated. Your silence is not emptiness. It's calculation, foresight, and quiet authority, and that makes you impossible to overlook. Number 12. They noticed you weren't trying to impress them, and that's what impressed them. Most people approach those with power with a subtle mix of caution and performance. They smile at the right moment, say the right words, and bend their behavior to fit expectations. That's the way the world operates. People seek validation from those who can influence their lives. You, however, do not. You don't perform, you don't flatter, and you don't bend yourself to be liked. You exist fully as you are, without apology or pretense. That alone draws attention, because someone in power is used to being approached by people who are trying too hard. You break the pattern. You become an anomaly in a sea of calculated interactions. What fascinates them is that your authenticity carries power. They can sense that your confidence isn't dependent on their recognition. You're not seeking approval, and that independence unsettles them in the best possible way. It makes them stop and observe because they encounter few people who refuse to bend for influence. You aren't charming or persuasive in a conventional sense, yet your presence and actions communicate a strength and self-assuredness that most people spend a lifetime trying to manufacture. They notice that you don't try to win their attention. It is earned organically. You speak, act, and carry yourself according to your principles, not according to what will impress someone else. That rare combination of independence and competence is magnetic. Power is drawn to confidence, but what holds it in fascination is authenticity that refuses to be curated or staged. The deeper impact is that your lack of effort to impress demonstrates a higher level of awareness. You understand your value and boundaries, and you refuse to compromise them for external validation. That clarity makes them obsessed because it challenges their assumptions about influence, control, and hierarchy. Once someone powerful notices that you cannot be impressed or swayed, their focus intensifies. You exist outside the usual rules of attraction and authority, and that truth alone makes you impossible to ignore. Number 13. They noticed you operate on authenticity in a world addicted to performance. The world is full of masks, facades, and people performing for recognition, status, or advantage. Those who hold real power are trained to see past the surface, to detect who is genuine and who is acting. When they observe you, they notice something that immediately stands out. You operate on authenticity. You show up as you are, without pretense, without playing roles, and without bending yourself to fit expectations. That level of realness is rare, and for someone who spends their life navigating calculated influence, it is magnetic. Your authenticity doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't demand approval. It simply exists, quietly powerful, yet unmistakable. They notice the subtle confidence that comes from someone who doesn't need to fabricate identity to gain respect or manipulate outcomes. While most people are busy performing, aligning words and actions to please or deceive, you act from your truth, and that honesty is immediately visible. Power instinctively respects what it cannot control, and authenticity is one of the few things that resists manipulation. What captivates them further is that your authenticity exposes patterns, weaknesses, and pretenses in ways they cannot anticipate. You make people feel seen, understood, and confronted with truth without effort. That disrupts their usual frameworks for influence. They are used to reading, predicting, and guiding others, but you refuse to participate in those dynamics unless it aligns with your principles. Your presence becomes a mirror, showing them a standard they rarely encounter, someone operating fully from their own integrity. That rare combination of self-possession and honesty keeps them obsessed. They analyze your actions, words, and decisions, trying to decode how someone can be so transparent, yet so untouchable. In a world addicted to performance, you are a revelation. Your authenticity doesn't just set you apart. It commands attention, inspires respect, and challenges the norms of influence. Once someone powerful recognizes this, their fascination is inevitable, because they know they are witnessing someone who cannot be staged, bent, or predicted, and that kind of clarity is impossible to ignore. Number 14. They noticed you carry a destiny frequency, and they can't unsee it. Some people move through life with talent, others with ambition, but very few carry a presence that feels inevitable. That is what someone with serious power notices in you. It's not about fame, influence, or recognition. It's something deeper, a resonance that suggests you are wired for impact in a way that cannot be ignored or delayed. They see it in your decisions, the way you navigate challenges, and the subtle confidence in your actions. There is a signal in your energy that says, this person was always meant to move in a certain way, achieve certain things, and leave a mark. And once they notice it, it lingers in their mind. They become fascinated because destiny cannot be manufactured. They are used to measuring worth through achievement, strategy, or influence, but your frequency operates on a different plane. It's instinctive, consistent, and undeniable. You act with alignment to something greater than ordinary life, something that defies normal rules of control. That makes them obsess, because they can't manipulate or influence it. It exists beyond their reach. Unlike most people who are shaped by circumstance, you seem to shape circumstances themselves, and that level of agency is mesmerizing to someone accustomed to orchestrating outcomes. What captivates them further is that your destiny frequency is subtle yet powerful. You don't announce it, you don't flaunt it, and you don't need to perform to validate it. It's in how you carry yourself, the way you think, the decisions you make, and the calm certainty in your presence. People who spend their lives scanning for patterns, signals, and potential are drawn to it because it defies expectation while simultaneously signaling inevitability. Once they recognize this, their attention becomes relentless. They watch your actions, dissect your choices, and try to anticipate your next move, But the truth is, your path is guided by something internal, precise, and unshakable. They cannot unsee the alignment, the energy, and the certainty that surrounds you. Your destiny frequency marks you as extraordinary, magnetic, and unforgettable. And once someone with real power notices it, the fascination turns into a quiet obsession that cannot be ignored. Everything we've uncovered today points to one undeniable truth. You are operating on a level that most people cannot even perceive. You move through life with a presence that commands attention without demanding it, a clarity of mind that defies ordinary understanding, and a spirit that refuses to shrink in the face of power. From the way your intuition outperforms data, to the way your silence carries more weight than 1,000 words, to the way your authenticity exposes truth in a world addicted to performance. You are extraordinary in ways that unsettle and captivate at the same time. Those with real influence notice patterns that others miss, and the moment they detected your mastery of restraint, your unshakable integrity, your ability to see through people and the invisible frequency of your destiny, they became obsessed. Not out of envy, not out of fear, but because they cannot ignore the rare combination of qualities you carry. You are someone who moves with inevitability, acts with purpose, and exists in alignment with something far greater than ordinary human ambition. That is why you leave them studying, analyzing, and trying to understand what cannot be replicated. You have become magnetic, not through effort, but through alignment, not through performance, but through authenticity, not through seeking validation, but by existing in a way that the world, including the powerful, is forced to recognize. And this is just the beginning. Every action you take, every boundary you uphold, and every decision you make reinforces what the world is slowly realizing. You cannot be ignored, underestimated, or controlled. You are a force that exists beyond ordinary rules. And once someone with serious power notices, they will continue to watch, study, and be quietly obsessed. If this message resonated with you, if you feel that power, clarity, and destiny vibrating through your own life, then don't let it stop here. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss insights like these. Like the video to show your awareness of your own extraordinary nature. Comment below and share your experiences, because your story, your energy, and your journey deserve to be seen and amplified. The world is watching, and it's time to step fully into what makes you unforgettable. God bless you.